In this video, I will be discussing how to graph and find the minimum and maximum values of a function. To graph a standard form of a quadratic in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, there are a few different things that we can be able to determine. First, if a is positive, then the graph is going to open up, meaning if we had 2x squared plus 3x plus 1, then the graph is going to open up like a U. The graph will open down if a is negative. For an example, if we had negative 4x squared plus 5x plus or minus 1 plus 1, the a is negative, which means the graph is going to actually open down. The x-coordinate of the vertex. Now, in a past video, we discussed that the vertex is the highest and the lowest point of a parabola. So to find the vertex from a standard form, you would use the formula negative b over 2a. So for example, if we had the graph x squared plus 8x minus 3, a is 1 because the coefficient of x squared is 1. B is 8, so negative b over 2a would be negative 8 over 2 times 1, which is 2, which is negative 4. So the x-coordinate of the vertex would be negative 4. To find the y-coordinate, we would take negative 4 and plug it back into our x value. Once we plug in negative 4, that will give us our y value of the vertex. In the axis of symmetry, we discussed in a past video that the axis of symmetry is x equals the x value. In this case, we knew the x value was negative 4, so the axis of symmetry will be x equals negative 4. Don't forget, it is an equation, not a number. The y-intercept of a standard form of graph is being able to plug 0 in for x. So, for example, if we were to take, again, this graph, we would plug 0 into x, so we would get 0 squared plus 8 times 0 minus 3, which would give us negative 3. For an example, we have the equation x squared minus 2x minus 3. We want to know first, does it open up or down? Well, if you look at a, in this case represents a 1, it is positive, which means it is going to open up. Now, we're going to talk about minimum maximum at the end. The x-coordinate of the vertex is negative b over 2a. Well, in this case, we know that a is 1, and we know that b is negative 2. So negative b over 2 times a is going to be 2 over 2, which is 1. So we know that the x-coordinate of the vertex is 1. To find the y-coordinate, we're actually going to plug 1 back in. So we'll have 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3. 1 squared is 1. 1 minus 2 is a negative 1. Minus 3 is negative 4. So therefore, we know the x-coordinate, we know a y-coordinate. So the vertex is 1, negative 4. So I'm going to go ahead and actually plot that. 1, negative 4 is this coordinate point right there. We also know that we open up, so we know that the u is going to go up. We also know the axis of symmetry. So I will draw a vertical line through that coordinate point. Remember, that's our vertex. And the axis of symmetry is x equals whatever our x value is. Our x value is 1, so it's going to be x equals 1. And the y-intercept is where we're going to plug 0 in for x. So if we plug in 0, we will get 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 3. So 0 minus 2 times 0 minus 3 gives us negative 3. So the coordinate point 0, negative 3 is going to be here. So if we were to graph this, we know that it's going to go up like that. And because it mirrors itself on the axis of symmetry, that means on the other side, it is going to look something similar to that. And that will be our coordinate, that will be our graph of this standard form. Now I want to go back to maximum and minimum. This is the lowest point of our graph, which means It is a minimum value. So if A is positive, you're going to get a minimum value because it's going to open up from that point. So minimum means that A is positive. Maximum means that A would have been a negative number. Now you can actually find the same thing on a calculator. If we were to pull up a graphing calculator and we were to go to y equals, we would be able to graph this. So you would have x squared, so you hit the point x squared plus 6x plus 5. And if you were to graph this coordinate point, it actually is going to give you your graph. If you do not see your graph, if you hit zoom out 3, enter, it will zoom out, obviously, to where you might be able to see your graph in case you did not see it. I'm going to go farther in, so I'm actually going to go back and zoom in a little bit. Now, here's how you find your vertex. If you go to second trace, you're looking for the minimum value. So go down to minimum value, and it wants to know the left bound, which means you are to go to the left side of that lowest point. So the lowest point is somewhere near here. So go to the left side of that, anywhere near the left side, hit enter. Now it wants to know the right bound. So go anywhere to the right, relatively, of this lowest point, hit enter. They want to know if you're ready to guess, so hit enter one more time. And it gave you the minimum value of -3, -4. So your vertex is automatically -3, -4. Did it open up or down? Well, A is positive, which means it opens up, and that also means that it is a minimum. Again, when we graphed it, we found the lowest value, and so it is a minimum. The axis of symmetry is x equals our x value. Our x value is -3. In the intercept, the y-intercept, we plug in 0 for x. So we'll get 0 squared plus 6 times 0 plus 5, which will give me 5. So 0, 5 happens here. -3, -4 happens here. And it is going to be a u that opens up. Real world connection. A lighting fixture manufacturer has a daily production cost of this function. C is the total daily cost in dollars. N is the number of light fixtures produced. How many fixtures will be produced to yield a minimum cost? That is our hint, which means we need to know the vertex. Again, in the past we talked about the minimum value is the lowest point on the graph, which is the vertex. So to find the vertex, we need to find -b over 2a, and then we plug that into to find the y value. So we know that a is 0.25, we know that b is -10, and we know that c is 800. So -b over 2a is going to be -b over 2 times a. Now, when you plug this into the calculator, make sure you keep parentheses around the 2 times 0.25. So I'll get 10 divided by 2 times 0.25, which gives me the number of a positive 20. So we know that the vertex is 20, and now we need to know the y value. To find the y value, we're going to plug 20 back in. So we'll get 0.25 times 20 squared minus 10 times 20 plus 800. So 0.25 times 20 squared minus gives us 700. Now, what does that mean? Well, we know that the vertex is 2700, which means you would go over 20 and up 700. And A is positive, which means it goes up, which means that is going to be our minimum. Now, N represents the number of lights produced, and C represents the cost to produce them. So to find out how many light fixtures yield a minimum cost, the light fixtures is going to be my X value, which is 20. So therefore, 20 light fixtures produces the minimum cost of $700. So the answer to this question was how many light fixtures should be produced? 20 light fixtures should be produced. And then if they ask the question, what is the cost of that? It would be $700. So, real-world connection. Try this one on your own. Pause this video, and then I am going to show you how to actually do this. The equation for the motion, real-world connection. In this case, I would like for you to pause the video and attempt this problem on your own, and then when you're ready, unpause the video while I answer the question. The equation of the motion of a projectile fired straight up at an initial velocity of 64 feet per second is height equals 64t minus 16t squared, where the h is the height and t is the time. So we are representing time, and in this case we're representing height. The height is in feet, and time is in seconds. Now, this is not in standard form. Standard form, the square needs to come first, so I'm going to need to rewrite this in standard form. The negative 16t squared needs to go first, and then this 64t is positive, so it needs to go second. And there is no outside number, so you can just write a plus 0. So this represents A, this represents B, this represents C. We are wanting to know its highest point. So we are needing to know the vertex. And again, remember the vertex, negative b over 2a. So we'll get negative b over 2 times a. So negative b divided by negative 2 times negative 16, or 2 times negative 16 is going to give me a 2. So I know that my vertex is 2, and then we're not sure what the y value is, so what we need to do is plug 2 back in. So negative 16 times 2 squared plus 64 times 2 plus 0. So we'll get negative 16 times 4 plus 64 times 2 will get us 64. So therefore our vertex is 264. 2 represents time, 64 represents height. So find the time the projectile needs to reach its highest point. If we were to graph this, we know that A is negative, and we know our vertex is 264, which would be about right here. Since A is negative, we know that it's going to open down. This represents the max height of the projectile. It wants to know, find the time it needs to reach the highest point. The time is 2, so therefore your answer would be 2 seconds. And then how high will it go? So after 2 seconds, it will reach its highest height, which is 64 feet. So part A, or for number 1, your answer would be 2 seconds. And for part B, or number 2, your answer would be 64 feet.